Iran is saying, we don't know what you're talking about. All our drones are fine, and claims that an Iranian drone was shot down are false. Of course, Washington has a very different narrative. According to Washington, a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Boxer, shot down an Iranian drone yesterday morning, 10 a.m. Local time. U.S. President Donald Trump even commented about this alleged incident with reporters. According to Mr. Trump, this Iranian drone allegedly was getting closer to the U.S. Navy ship. The U.S. Navy ship sent out warnings to the drone to stand down. When it didn't, according to Mr. Trump, the U.S. Navy ship shot down the drone. Mr. Trump adding that this is the latest in a series of provocative and hostile actions by Iran in international waters, and that the U.S. has a right to defend itself. Again, Iran is denying this, almost mockingly denying it. Abbas Araghchi, the deputy foreign minister, saying all of our drones are fine, and maybe the U.S. shot its own drone down.
The Supreme Court in the British territory of Gibraltar has ruled that an Iranian tanker that was allegedly shipping oil to Syria can be detained for 30 more days. British Royal Marines and Gibraltar police seized the supertanker on July 4th, accusing it of breaking European Union sanctions against Syria. Now, Iran has protested that it is not a member of the European Union, so the sanctions do not apply. It also denies that the oil was being shipped to Syria.
The federal government has reached a settlement worth nearly $1 billion with victims of sexual misconduct in the Canadian Armed Forces. David Thurton is in Ottawa. He has more on this story. So, David, what can you tell us about the settlement?
Yeah, Natasha, this is a big settlement, $900 million. And it's important to mention, though, that the government, even though the government has reached a settlement, it is not accepting liability. But liable or not, it will be paying out that $900 million. The money will be divided among two camps. The first one would be for civilians who work for the Department of National Defense. The second one would be for members of the Canadian Armed Forces. So civilians will be receiving a total of $100 million. The remainder, $800 million, will go directly to members of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Now the president appears to be quite uncomfortable with certain questions being asked. And he's saying that the questions are unfair. He says that the commission is biased against him. And he says that he came there in good faith and he's no longer prepared to participate in the commission of inquiry because he says that the commission is now cross-examining him, which he says is not allowed in terms of the rules of the commission. But the evidence leader for the commission of inquiry is saying, we are not cross-examining you. We're trying to get to the bottom of state corruption. We're trying to get to the bottom of state capture. And the fact that you've been implicated by 9 witnesses forces us to probe these questions. But of course, the former president is uncomfortable with these questions. And we saw on Monday and Tuesday where he said that he cannot remember some of the questions that they asked of him.
Official data has revealed knife-related crime has hit record numbers with the highest rate in the capital. Knife crime offences have risen by 8% in the past year, the highest level since records began in 2011. Over 43,000 knife crimes were committed in the year ending March 2019, compared to just over 40,000 the previous year. And the highest rate has been recorded in the capital, with 169 knife-related crimes for every 100,000 people. Well, a short while ago, I was joined by community campaigner Cheryl Phoenix. She said knife crime in London is directly linked with school exclusions.
It's a multitude of things. My main thing that I find that a lot of young people, particularly in London, that's where I can talk about because that's mostly where I'm based. I always say there's a direct link between school exclusions and children being on the street, being groomed into carrying knives, feeling that they've got to protect themselves from bullies.
In Puerto Rico, growing protests on the streets of tens of thousands of people. But ask most Puerto Ricans why they want Governor Ricardo Rosselló to step down, and they not only mention his vulgar group chat messages with aides leaked over the weekend, but also something else: a lack of quality in basic services. Puerto Rico is without power for almost a year after Hurricane Maria devastated the Caribbean U.S. territory in 2017. Dozens of people were killed from the storm, but some estimates concluded thousands more died after the storm from lack of medicines and electricity. In some of the text messages, the governor joked about those who died. It's infuriated people here, but they say a sign of larger problems he hasn't addressed. The governor said he's sorry for the hurt he's caused his people, but that he won't step down.
The Bahrain government's violent crackdown on Shia-led protests in March 2011 drew the world's attention. Bahraini security forces and pro-government militia, with the help of Saudi and Emirati troops, charged protesters at the Pearl Roundabout in the capital, Manama. The Bahraini government says 35 people were killed in the crackdown, thousands were arrested. Human rights groups say many detainees were tortured into giving false confessions. Many opposition leaders and activists have since been jailed. Critics said it exposed the political oppression that the country's majority Shia population had suffered for decades. Now, according to the taped testimonies acquired in an Al Jazeera investigation, a former Bahraini al-Qaeda member says the government recruited him to kill Shia opposition members in the country.
Witnesses describe a prepared team who walked confidently into this restaurant to assassinate a Turkish diplomat. Osman Kosa was sitting inside with his bodyguard. Witnesses say then two men pulled up to the valet in this upscale Erbil neighborhood. They told the attendant they would be only a minute. They walked inside, and one man with a gun in each hand began shooting Kosa. Two Iraqi Kurdish customers were shot and killed as they tried to hide. Witnesses say the diplomat's bodyguard took cover and shot back. One of the attackers was hit in the leg, leaving a trail of blood as they escaped. There haven't been any arrests or any claim of responsibility. However, there has been a denial of involvement. Hours after the shootings, a spokesman with the military wing of the PKK, or Kurdistan Workers' Party, said the group was not responsible. A family's life is tonight in a million pieces, an explosion wiping their home off the face of the earth. The Christchurch blast was so powerful, many thought it was an earthquake. Dozens of people fleeing the neighbourhood in fear.
A family home reduced to matchsticks, obliterated in a flash with 5 people inside. Roof tiles became projectiles. The deafening blast heard 10 kilometres away. Some thought they were being bombed. Others had a shocking feeling of deja vu.
I thought it was an earthquake, massive earthquake. And next minute I looked up and I could see all this stuff going up in the air. So I came out, so it was all up in the air, like it was huge.
Bricks, rubble and twisted metal landing more than 100 metres away. Many still not allowed back in their homes. The family had noticed a problem with their gas fire earlier this week and were waiting for it to be repaired. Northwood is one of the first suburbs in Christchurch to offer piped LPG gas.
Above the clouds on Hawaii's largest island, there's a standoff. Native Hawaiians call this dormant volcano Mauna Kea, and many consider it sacred. Only high-ranking chiefs and priests are even allowed to climb it. They sing in praise at its base and believe it to be the perfect place to connect with the heavens. Astronomers agree. With clear weather and little light pollution, Hawaii's tallest mountain is home to 13 telescopes, and construction was meant to begin this week on the biggest one yet. A $1.4 billion project The 30-meter telescope will be one of the world's most advanced. With 12 times the resolution of the Hubble Space Telescope, scientists hope to use it to study the Big Bang and answer questions about the origins of the universe. It will also be the largest telescope in the Northern Hemisphere, and that's part of the problem. Its construction has been delayed for years due to protests and legal battles.